There's no famine or even a potential famine in Gaza. Shops are full and any claim to the contrary is all made up by the pro-Hamas United Nations and the pro-Hamas World Health Organization. At least that's what Melanie Phillips wants us to believe.
It says that the Gazans are being denied by Israel access to food and humanitarian supplies. Yes. This is completely untrue. There have been hundreds and hundreds of trucks going through Gaza. There have been hundreds of trucks stopped from going through Gaza because the food is being stolen by Hamas. The Gazans themselves are saying this. You laugh because you don't know. I am telling you.
But hang on. Melanie, in fairness, the UN says that not enough trucks are being allowed in and that children are dying of starvation. You've got UNICEF saying children are dying of starvation.
The UN has had its own operatives in UNRWA, the Relief and Welfare Organization, who are members of Hamas, dozens and dozens of them. They are entirely compromised.
OK, so just, Melanie, I'll let you speak, I promise, but just to be clear what you're saying, when you've got the WHO and the UN and the EU humanitarian chiefs saying there is famine in Gaza, you're saying that's not true.
You can go on YouTube and see pictures of the stocked food markets in Gaza. Why are you laughing?
Have you seen outrageous.
Them? Have you seen them?
Actually,
have you seen these
Melanie,
video pictures?
I have looked at some of them. They don't have timestamps on them. I've got to point that out. So I don't know when these pictures were taken.
OK.
I mean, if you have proof that they were taken in the last October...
if you want to look at pictures, Melanie, I'm quite happy to send you some pictures and videos of civilians being bombed and slaughtered.
Her main argument is that because she spends time in Israel, you know, the same country currently in court facing charges of genocide, and because she's seen some YouTube shorts with shops full of food on their shelves, that this proves that she's right and everybody else, all the international organizations, are all completely wrong. Maybe then she should have watched the various reports like this one.
Sometimes war kills slowly and quietly. Hunger attacking the tiniest bodies. The Al-Adwa Health Centre in Rafah is filling up with malnourished infants, like Ahmed, who has lost half his body weight during the war. Children who survive the bombings may not survive famine. Back in Rafah, aid did not reach 12-year-old Yazan Al-Kafarna, who had cerebral palsy and needed good nutrition. Here's how he looked before the ravages of war, before his family had only scraps to feed him. His mother says he used to eat and move and laugh and play. Yesterday, Yazan died from malnutrition.
In this overrun hospital ward, anxious mothers watch on as doctors provide whatever care they still can. But for some, there is nothing more to be done. 3-year-old Mila, who had been suffering from acute malnutrition, now another victim of this merciless war.
For those who haven't been fortunate enough to have come across Melanie Phillips, she's a pro-Zionist, anti-Muslim columnist who writes for various mainstream newspapers, or at least has written for them. In the Jewish Chronicle, she stated that the taunt of Islamophobia is used to silence any criticism of the Islamic world, including Islamic extremism, and it also facilitates anti-Semitism. So if you think there exists prejudice and discrimination, including an irrational attitude against anyone perceived as Muslims, you are effectively facilitating both extremism and also anti-Semitism. She's also claimed Obama was adopting the agenda of the Islamists, and maybe he's a secret Muslim too. To say she comes across as unhinged seems an understatement, yet these are the type of people the BBC seem to want to present the case for Israel. The first point, regardless of what Melanie Phillips has said, is that those videos she may have seen were not timestamped, so we don't know when they were filmed. Was it last week, last month, or last year? We just don't know. Secondly, even if there are 1 or 2 shops full of food on their shelves, that doesn't mean that that's now sufficient for the 2.3 million Palestinians in Gaza. It doesn't mean that they have now adequate food, water and medicine. Of course not. It literally proves nothing. Thirdly, we have numerous other videos from media outlets and social media that have shown the absolute dire situation the Gazans are facing, particularly those in the north of Gaza. Why the selective videos from YouTube, Melanie? Or are you only interested in those evidences or videos that attempts to prove your biases and prejudice? Is that what it's about? Fourthly, the United Nations are not pro-Hamas infiltrated with supposed terrorists. The Israelis claimed without producing any evidence that 12 members of UNRWA who employ 30,000 people were supposedly linked to the October 7th attack. That doesn't mean the entire United Nations are now under the influence of Hamas. That's some bat crazy conspiracy theory. In a UN press release in late February 2024, it stated that at least 576,000 people in Gaza, that's 1/4 of the population, are one step away from famine. The United Nations Human Rights Organization also stated that Gazans now make up 80% of all people facing famine or catastrophic hunger worldwide. And it's not surprising that this is the case when you have the Defense Minister, Yoav Gallant, saying, I have ordered a complete siege on the Gaza Strip. There will be no electricity, no food, no fuel, everything is closed. So can you imagine that? That he's actually saying that he's going to cut off food, water, fuel, medicine from the people of Gaza. And not only has Israel's defense minister stated this, but other high-ranking ministers like the National Security Minister, Ben-Gvir, and also the Energy Minister, Israel Katz, have also made public statements about this too. And it's not just about a blockade of food on Gaza that is causing the imminent famine, but also the blockade on fuel, which was in part used to help desalinate the water, making it drinkable and usable like watering crops and farmland. And that's those farmlands and those crops that haven't been targeted by the IDF and destroyed, together with the fact that Israel has destroyed numerous bakeries and factories. We have a situation where Palestinians in Gaza are facing huge difficulties in obtaining the very basics of survival. This is why numerous organizations, international organizations, have claimed Israel are using starvation as a weapon of war. And as we have seen, this has caused deaths of children. Subhanallah, can you imagine watching your child wither away and die due to the lack of food? So after high-ranking ministers stated that they would put a siege on Gaza, after the deliberate targeting of bakeries and factories, after the targeting and destroying of farmlands in Gaza, and after the blockade or at least significant reduction of fuel used to help desalinate water, after seeing the images of the starving children in Gaza, after the various reports from international organizations, what gives you the right to make your utter, stupid, lying statement denying any imminent starvation for the people of Gaza? This isn't simply ignorance or cognitive dissonance. This is utter depravity of lying to help cover the crimes against humanity Israel are committing.